Then Baltimore down 19-7 with RG3 on the sideline injured. You figured the game is over, and then this happens. Trace McSorley, Hollywood Brown, they're not going to get him. 70 yards. McSorley's first career touchdown pass, and the Ravens get it to 19-14, which means Pittsburgh has to go to the 4-minute offense, and they do it to perfection, picking up one after another first down, including that one from Benny Snell. That ices it. John Harbaugh didn't like it. Steelers didn't feel so good about themselves coming out, but a win is a win, and they're 11-0. The Ravens, I think, made a very good showing for themselves, considering they were missing 17 players, including, of course, their starting quarterback, 3 of their 4 leading rushers, 2 of their 3 leading receivers. The commissioner, Roger Goodell, had a teleconference before the game outlining the league's plans moving forward.
Let me be crystal clear, as we have been with our club since last March. Health and medical decisions have and always will take precedence over competitive considerations and business interests. As we discussed in October at the Fall League meeting, we will not postpone or reschedule games due to COVID issues affecting multiple players, even within a position group, if we feel comfortable that the rest of the team is not at risk.
So that's obviously a huge story as we look ahead to the final month of this season and then the playoffs. Adam Schefter, what was the reaction you heard from people around the league after the commissioner's thoughts yesterday?
Essentially, I thought the headline, Greeny, was that he dismissed the idea that there could and would be a playoff bubble. And, of course, this came on a day in which the 49ers left San Francisco last night and will be in Arizona now, training, practicing, playing indefinitely through the holidays, it looks like, at this point in time. But Roger Goodell made it very clear yesterday that, number one, the league is not thinking of going to a playoff bubble the way that the NBA did down at Disney World in Orlando. And number two, that even though the Broncos had to play on Sunday without quarterbacks and the Ravens were pushed back 3 different times, he laid it out basically this way, and we've tried to explain it this way. The NFL believes its job is to identify the virus, isolate the virus, and contain the virus. And if it's identified, isolated, and contained, the game will go on even if you're missing all your quarterbacks like the Broncos. If it's not contained, as was the case in Baltimore, the league will continue to postpone the game. But again, we're at the point in the season, 12 weeks in, where the league has not yet canceled a game. And we're seeing schools closed, restaurants closed, cities backing up. And you have a situation here where the NFL has essentially advertised for everybody who's paying attention, the league is not going to stop. The league intends to keep playing games. The league's job is to provide football and make TV money, and that's exactly what it's done through 3 quarters of the season.
Yes, for my opinion, for whatever it is worth, is I think they deserve an enormous amount of credit for having gotten to this point. As we work our way forward, where at Schefter, to your point, we have seen numbers spiking all across the country. Louis Riddick, what would you describe as your biggest concern relative to all this as they try and play out the last month of their season and get to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, my biggest concern would be that, one, that they can keep everything contained, that they can keep players on the straight and narrow as far as making sure that they're following the protocols that they need to follow. And as we move into the Christmas holiday, that, again, people from the outside that are surrounding these players in their regular daily lives don't put them at further risk to where, teams, maybe some of the teams that are the higher seeded teams wind up losing out, on a chance to go to the Super Bowl because they get so decimated at a position that is absolutely critical, to them. I mean, just picture a team like the Steelers or picture a team like the Kansas City Chiefs or any of a number of other teams, the Green Bay Packers, for instance, that are in Wisconsin in an area that has been ravaged by COVID, having their entire quarterback room wiped out and having an entire season's worth of work just go down the drain because you don't have Aaron Rodgers, you don't have Pat Mahomes, or you don't have Ben Roethlisberger, and all of a sudden there's nothing you can do about it. That's what I'm worried about the most, that something like that happens that just totally throws the whole season out of whack. But then, that's what we're dealing with. That's the COVID era, and that's what we all have to buckle in for.
Now, that's why I think Schefter had it right when he said the big headline yesterday, there will not be a playoff bubble for the NFL. Nick, what's your thought? What's your biggest concern?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a complicated, complex issue that we won't be able to break down in this little bit of time. So, like, I do think that you're right. What the NFL has pulled off up until now has been pretty impressive, especially when you compare it to what's happening in the rest of the country. Like, we as a country can't really behave in a way that's been as effective as the way that the NFL has. And the NFL hasn't really had transmission from team to team. I think that's the one thing that the league can really control. They can't control a city or a complex or a team, but they can control whether it goes from team to team, and we haven't had that happen. So they deserve credit for that, but we also need to understand that this is a dangerous, dangerous disease, and we don't know about the long-term, or dangerous virus, and we don't know about the long-term impacts. There have been several players that have had some serious repercussions from having this disease, and there may be some in the distant future, and we don't know yet. So I think we should keep that in mind as we go through all this, and as much as we applaud the NFL for what they've accomplished up until now, understand that this could have some long-term lasting effects on more players than it already has.
All right, we'll continue to watch, and we'll continue to hope for the best. In the meantime, let's go back on the field, and let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. It's been obviously a rough first season for their coach, Mike McCarthy, getting off to a terrible start, then losing Dak Prescott and any number of injuries. Well, earlier this week, Jerry Jones was asked if he could think of any other coach who faced such adversity in their first season. Listen to this.
Yeah, I sure can, Jimmy Johnson. I sure can. Jimmy had a lot of handicaps when we first came in here. By the way, we won one football game, too. And he was accused by one other coach, for sure, of running and making it look like it was a high school program.
I found that absolutely fascinating. Dominique, what is your reaction to what he just said?
I mean, Jerry Jones has been around the game for decades upon decades upon decades. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's saying. He can't actually think that they are comparable talent-wise as far as coaching is concerned, or building a team. So Jerry Jones knows that Jimmy Johnson is in a different league compared to Mike McCarthy, and he knows that he's going to give us something else to talk about the Cowboys for. So for that, I appreciate Jerry Jones. But that is as nonsensical as what he said yesterday when he said that Ben DiNucci, a drafted quarterback, preparing for a game with him is the same as preparing for a game with a wide receiver playing quarterback who never even practiced the position in the NFL. So these things are equally as absurd, and Jerry Jones is just trolling all of us. We fell into another one of his traps.
What do you think, Lewis?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, Jimmy Johnson's in the Hall of Fame, not just because he's a Hall of Fame coach, but because he was a Hall of Fame team-building architect. I mean, he was in control of his own destiny. Look, I love Mike McCarthy. I've known Mike McCarthy since I was in college. Mike McCarthy's not in control of his own destiny. He's not picking any players. He's not constructing this football team in his image. You know, we all know that. So to say that, you know, Jimmy and Mike face the same things, I mean, yeah, they don't. It's not even close. And the Ben DiNucci comment was interesting too, man, because only because, I mean, they drafted Ben DiNucci. They selected him. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess he's indicting himself a little bit as far as how they evaluate.